Drip, drop. Water. Without it, there would be no life. Yet people fail to realize its importance. It's time for that to change. This is Washington, located in the northwestern corner of the United States. Its capital is Olympia, and its largest city is Seattle. It's nicknamed the Evergreen State for its abundant evergreen forests that flourished from its wet and rainy climate. But green plants aren't the only thing the rain brought on. There are a few ways Washington residents can get their water. Citizens can drill wells into their property and pump up water from underground. They still need to follow certain guidelines and regulations, but they get fresh water right from the source. The other, more common method is through a water utility service. To name a few in Washington, there's the Kitsap Public Utility Service, the Washington Water Service Company, and the Rainier View Water Company.
Okay, so we here at Kitsap PUD, we own and operate a bunch of drinking water systems, right? And we also maintain a water resources monitoring network.
The KPUD has over 30 wells in Kitsap County. They monitor, manage, and educate people about Kitsap's water. Chemicals are usually added to the water to help with taste and smell.
We do not add anything other than chlorine, and we tend to run a very light dose of chlorine. The maximum you can allow in a finished water is 4 parts per million. We generally maintain 0.2 parts per million, so you see we're really low on that, right? And it's for taste, we really treat for taste and odor control. So underground there's organic materials, and we'll produce this kind of gas called hydrogen sulfide. It's that rotten egg smell, or sulfur you might have smelled in drinking water before. So a little chlorine can get rid of that smell. The vast majority of Kitsap residents get their water from groundwater, from aquifers.
I got to interview Michael Land at the Mission Dam in California.
Hi there, my name is Michael Land. I'm a hydrologist with the United States Geological Survey here in the California Water Science Center. The way I like to explain what an aquifer is to think about a bathtub. So a bathtub has a certain shape to it. It's kind of an oval and it's long. Some aquifers look like that. They're long and they're deep. Or they could be round and shallow, or long and skinny.
A commonly used way to collect naturally filtered water is through an aquifer. An aquifer is a body of saturated rock that lies underground. They trap sediment and other particles like bacteria.
So aquifers were deposited by glaciers during the last ice age, a series of glaciers that came and retreated, and left deposits of sand and gravel that are now underneath our feet that hold water.
The bathtub is full of different kinds of materials. Some of the materials are coarse-grained, like sands and gravels, and some of it is fine-grained, like a silt or a clay. The kinds of materials that make a really good aquifer are your sands and gravels, because that's going to transmit the water very rapidly. So that's what we look for in an aquifer. Again, the water that fills up your basin, it's kind of in between these pores, right? So you have these sands and gravels, and the water's in between those sands and gravels. If you have a really big bathtub, a thick basin, you're going to be able to hold and store more water.
The water comes from rain, streams, and most commonly rivers. In turn, the water from the rivers comes from melted snow from the mountains. Here, you can see the Cascade Mountains.
You can contaminate an aquifer through irrigation, farming, right? Farming, if you are putting fertilizers and pesticides on the fields, that stuff will leach into the ground. But but also too the kinds of things that we apply to our roads and in our yards, all that stuff kind of runs off, and it has the potential to kind of seep into the underground and into the aquifer. Those are things that man has created and done. There are also other ways, natural ways, to kind of contaminate an aquifer. You could possibly have a fault, a large regional fault that creates a conduit where you have deeper water that's very saline, like old salty water that kind of comes up and flows up, and you have this salty water kind of contaminating your fresh aquifer. Depending on where you are, some rocks have really high concentrations of things that aren't good for humans. So like arsenic, right? And if the water comes in contact with those rocks, it's going to start to leach out arsenic from the rocks, right? Or chromium, right? You have areas where you have high arsenic, high chrome. These are all natural contaminants. Nobody did anything. It's just the way it is.
It's very important to keep our water clean because the process of ridding it of contaminants is long and costly, but you can help. Don't use fertilizers or pesticides on open ground. Keep them in your plant pots if you have to use them.
Right now in Kitsap County, right, if you looked at all the water that was coming in and recharging down to the aquifers, right, are going below ground. Now some of that below ground water feeds stream flows. I think right now humans are using somewhere around 4%, right? So a lot of it runs off, right, stream flows. A lot of water infiltrates down. We have a stacked aquifer system here.
Water that's being captured by that well is more than 10,000 years old. So you have to think about this now. So that water was in contact with the atmosphere 10,000 years ago. It's not because it's really far down and deep. It's not. It's because it's moving somewhat slowly through the aquifer, albeit a deep part of the aquifer, but the travel time from the mission all the way up to the headwaters, 10,000 years. So if you're pumping that water out of the ground, it takes that long to get it back unless you have some kind of sophisticated engineering project to inject the water back in. But how much water we have, how do we manage it? That's a management problem. You need somebody to say, whoa, let's look at the checkbook. Slow down, right? What's going in, what's going out? And if you're pumping water that's 10,000 years old and you don't have a plan for replacing that, it's like mining. You're actually mining the water.
Water is our future, and I hope you will help me to make it a bright one.
I think people today should understand how precious water is and how very little we have, particularly the water that's of good quality. So I try to impress upon my kids and my family members conservation. Practice treating water as the precious resource that it is. Be frugal, use as little as you can.
And we're available anytime to you or anybody else who wants to come up and take an interest in our water. The more people know about it, the more they're going to take care of it, right? We have a vested interest in taking care of it, so it starts with educating yourself. So I tip my hat to you for doing that.
Modern plumbing and all the conveniences we have, I think there's been a bit of a disconnect in terms of, well, okay, I'm just going to turn the faucet on. You don't really know the real value of water until one day you go to turn your faucet on and nothing comes out. And nothing comes out for hours. And you can't flush your toilet. And you can't make anything for dinner. And you can't wash your hands. And you can't take a shower. Those kinds of things tend to pass. But I think for most people in the world, they would gladly welcome that kind of situation. To not have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and hike a couple miles just to fill up some pails of water and bring it home. And oh, by the way, some of that water, there's a chance that if they drink it, they might die because it's contaminated with, who knows what. We're very fortunate to live where we are, to have the water supply that we have.
I hope you enjoyed watching and now have a different view on water. Thank you.